everyone, today I'm going to be speaking to you about the Netflix documentary Abducted in Plain Sight. Strangely enough, the most disturbing thing about this documentary to me wasn't really what was happening to the little girl, but it was more the stupidity of her family and all the people around her. If you haven't watched this documentary yet, you might think that I'm exaggerating or that I'm just making some of this up, but I can guarantee you that what I'm telling you is the truth, and people just really are that stupid. At the beginning of the documentary, you meet the little girl who is now a woman, and she's explaining how her family were best friends with her molester's family, and she's explaining how she looked at him as a father figure, and how they really trusted each other and they spent a lot of time in each other's houses. So in the beginning, the little girl was around 11 or 12, and the family friend was in his 40s, and it came up on the screen and told you that before he abducted her for the first time, he used to stay over at their house, and he would sleep in her bed 4 nights a week. Now, in an interview with the father, he said that in the 70s they didn't know what child molesters and paedophiles were. Now, I'm sorry, I don't care what year you're living in, you know that a 40-year-old man sleeping in bed with an 11-year-old 4 nights a week isn't right. Like, you would question that, no matter what. The family friend, who they called B, also had a wife and family of his own, and one day he came over and asked Jan's mother if he could take her horseback riding, and she told them to be back for a certain time. So when they didn't return back that night, they decided not to call the police, and they actually waited for days before they called the police, and the reason that they gave was that they trusted him and they didn't think that he would do anything bad. Now, think about this for 1 second. If you've got a child and somebody takes them away to go horseback riding or to go to the shop or whatever, and they don't come back that night, you're going to phone the police, regardless of how much you trust that person. I mean, if I had a child and my brother took my child away for the night and then they didn't come back, you would phone the police, not because you don't trust him, but because anything could have happened. They could have been in an accident, both of them could have been abducted, they could have drove the car off the side of a mountain, you know, anything could have happened, and they waited for days before they reported this to the police. It doesn't make any sense. So the story switched to Jan's point of view, and she says that she woke up restrained and she had a little box next to her, and she was receiving messages from aliens telling her that her and her sister were half alien and that she had been chosen to give birth to a baby before her 16th birthday, and if she failed then they would make her sister have a baby, and if they failed then they would kill her entire family. The reason that Jan gave for believing this was that she was in a religious family, and she was taught that Mary was a virgin when she had Jesus, and that Jesus' father was God, so this made sense to her in her mind. Now, to be honest, I think that a 12-year-old should be smarter than that, but it was the 70s and they didn't really have as much knowledge as we have now, and it's possible that she really just did believe that. B had been drugging her and she'd been slipping in and out of consciousness, so the next time she woke up her restraints were untied and she went into the next room and found him lying there, and she thought he was dead, and he was lying, he had cuts and everything all over him, and he told her that he was the chosen one that she had to have the baby with. So at this point he started to sexually molest her. After a while the FBI finally tracked him down in Mexico, and they were arrested and taken to a Mexican jail, and B gave one of the guards his ring so that he could speak to Jan, and when she came down to the cell he was saying to her, don't tell your family anything, don't tell them what we've been doing, don't tell them about the mission or the aliens will kill all your family. So like I say, she was only young, but I mean she was 12 and she was obviously just easily led. But anyway, it wasn't really her fault, so she believed that all her family would die if she said anything. While he was speaking to Jan in the cell, he told her that she wasn't allowed to have any relationships with men, and she wasn't allowed to be close to her father, so she started to block her father out and not really talk to him, and not allow him to have a relationship with her. Once they got Jan back, the FBI told her family to stay away from being his family, and they totally ignored this advice. As the documentary goes on, you find out that B seduced Jan's mother and father, and he did this to get closer to Jan. Later on he uses this information to blackmail them. Before B's trial, the mother and father signed an affidavit stating that they gave him permission to take her away, and the reason they signed this was that he was blackmailing them and saying that he was going to come out and tell everybody that he had an affair with the mother and father, and instead of dealing with the shame of this happening, then they just allowed him to get away with abducting their daughter. B then moved away to work with his brother, and during this time he stayed in communication with the family, and he started to send Jan love letters. Now, as I said at the start, she thought of him as a father figure, so this fatherly love turned into actual love, and she started to send him love letters, and they were talking about getting married and being in love and all that. Jan decided that she wanted to go and work in a children's centre over the summer so that she could see B, and her father put his foot down and he told her, no, it's not right, you can't be with him. Like, she was only young and he was an older man, and he told her no. But then the mother put her on a plane and sent her over there to be with him. Now, what kind of mother would do this? I understand that the mother was in love with B at the time, but she was just so brainwashed and stupid, it was ridiculous. While Jen was working in the camp, B's brother knew all about the relationship, and when they were interviewing him, all they said was, oh, we just thought, oh, that must be his thing, he must just be into little girls, and he just didn't think anything of it. Now, even in the 70s, you must have known that that wasn't right. So eventually Jan had to come back home, and at this point she was shutting out her entire family because she was still trying to follow this mission that she had to have a baby before she was 16. Jan's mother had continued to communicate with B, and as she said at the start of the programme, she had been in love with him. So eventually she went back and she had an 8-month affair with him, and B was trying to convince her to leave her husband and bring the kids along, and this was obviously so that he could see Jan. Her husband rightfully filed for divorce. I mean, she'd been having an affair with this crackpot, and then when they interviewed the children, they were saying, oh, people didn't really get divorced in the 70s, and it was a shame and it was embarrassing. Well, so what? Your mum's been having an affair with this guy, and obviously your dad's going to file for a divorce. The worst part of it was when the mother received the divorce papers, she actually says, oh, I couldn't believe he would do something like this to me. She couldn't believe that he filed for a divorce while she was away having an affair with another man. Eventually, she decided to leave B and go back home, and the two of them fell into each other's arms. So later on, B came back to the house and abducted Jan through her bedroom window. I say abducted, but she obviously went with him willingly because at this point she was in love with him. He managed to enrol her in a Catholic all-girls school, and he told the nuns that he was with the CIA and that if anybody came looking for her that they were the bad guys. Now, I understand that this was the 70s and times were different, but how the hell can you enrol somebody into a school, say that you're with the CIA, not have any ID? He didn't have her birth certificate or ID, and these nuns just believed it. Now, I know that some people are gullible, but to actually enrol somebody into a school and just believe that this person's in the CIA boggles my mind. This time when she was abducted, she was gone for months, and the FBI tapped the phone lines. They told the family that they suspected that it was B that had her, and they told them to keep communicating with him to see if he would give up any information. Now, if they suspected that he had her, why didn't they follow him? Because it turned out that he had been going to visit her every weekend. He told the school that he was her dad, so when he went to visit her at the weekend, he used to go there and have sex with her. Why weren't the FBI following him? Like, did they just not do their job in the 70s? At this stage in the documentary, I considered switching it off, because the mother and father's stupidity was infuriating me to the point where I just couldn't even look at them anymore. And they kept saying, oh, we feel guilty, we don't think that we can ever forgive ourselves. You shouldn't forgive yourself. It was their fault that this happened. They allowed this to happen. Who lets their child go away with somebody for days without phoning the police? Anything could have happened, regardless of whether it was him doing it to them or not. I mean, how stupid can you be? And then obviously his brother knew what was happening. He knew that he was having sex with this little girl, and he just thought, oh, that must just be his thing, as if it just wasn't a big deal. And then you had Jan and her sister talking about how loving and supporting their parents were, and if they hadn't have been so loving and supporting, then they wouldn't have got through what had happened. But if their mother and father hadn't have been so goddamn stupid, none of it would have happened in the first place. In all honesty, I think that Jan's mother and father should have been put to jail, because they enabled this paedophile to molest their daughter, all because they didn't want shame brought on the family. And the mother was the worst of all. At least their father tried to put a stop to it. All their mother cared about was the fact that she was in love with him, and how sexy he made her feel and how beautiful he made her feel, and it was just sad and pathetic. Who puts their own feelings over their daughter's safety? I'm not going to tell you what happens at the very end of this, only because I really think that you should watch this documentary. I know that I've sat here and moaned about how stupid the family were, but trust me, I've not even scraped the surface. I've not even went into half the things that they were letting him away with. It just didn't make any sense. Anybody with a child who would allow this stuff to happen deserves to go to jail. The mother and father seem to think it's okay to use the fact that it happened in the 70s as an excuse. I'm sorry, but even if half of this stuff was happening in the 20s, you would know that there was a problem. Let me know in the comments section if you've watched this documentary and what you thought of it. Do you think that Jan's mother and father should have went to jail? If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Bye!